Hi. Hey. Hello. Is Skycatlive. What's up, guys? It's 12:05 p.m. on 309/26. That's a March 9th, 2026. It's 68 degrees in my house. And it's a Monday. 12:05, 68 degrees, 309 on a Monday. What's up, guys? How are you? Uh gonna go and I am wearing glasses today as I went to the eye doctor this morning, and it is confirmed that I have the doctor has some concerns that I may be developing glaucoma. And so I have to go back and see him again in 2 weeks, and we're gonna see what it's like after I don't wear contacts for 2 weeks, and see if the pressure in my eyes is a bit better. We don't know, but yeah, it appears that there's some cataracts forming or whatever it is that happens. I'm not really sure. And so I will be wearing glasses for the foreseeable future, which I'm not very happy about, but what can you do? I've got too much pressure in my eyes, so I'm going to try and lessen that. An update to the Eve launcher is available. Project Discovery 10th anniversary in Fan Fest, the first decade of Project Discovery. City 20. So we're going to drop it off the big face now. I was just getting started. Sorry, I had to respond to a comment on my YouTube channel. Let's go to work. Twitch, stream. Gotta get my headphones in. Where are they? Get my pals in. Okay, there we go. Go to channel content. There we go. Go into that. And, hello, wow. Eve. And Rust. Eve. Rust. No, I'm not playing FFXI today. It's WoW, Eve, and Rust. Yeah, so should be good. There we go. Okay. $5 for Wild Woods. Vex is awaiting a response, so I'm sorry. I don't accept Steam friend invites. I'm sorry about that. I'll just ignore the request step. There we go. Dead Space is for sale. Oh, I'm going to turn some lights on. I'll be right back. Hi, kitty. $432 players out of 750. Fuck yeah. What? There we Okay, base is looking good. Looks like I might need to do a repair. Let's see. Fuel and wood. No, repair is good. Doesn't look like we got any issues, actually. Gonna hop in. Is the thing down? Yes, it is. Raise. No, don't open doors. Okay. Maybe I will sail somewhere. Yeah, I will sail to the fishing village. I don't know if I'm too close or whatever. Let's see. Yeah, that should work. So, straighten out. We'll reef the sails. Take a look at the corp. Oh, I missed it. Oh well, that is all right. Now, new
Okay,
Kira.
what's up, friendos?
Steven's public statement claims he did nothing wrong.
Welcome back. It's really hard to record this video. I've tried about 15 times at this stage.
So here's what Steven wrote on Reddit? Fucking Reddit, you fucking idiot. Over the past month, many of you have noticed that I've been largely silent. For a community and a team that I spoke with almost daily during development, I know that silence has been unusual and difficult. It was not because... Make sure that we do what I need to do here. No, I will have to reef the sails. And reverse the engines? I don't know. No. I have cold on the roof. Nice. What? I didn't tell you to open that fucking box at all, you stupid piece of shit cocksucker developer. Don't cross me. Where's my shirt? My shirt is just gone. Fucking gone. Why is my shirt suddenly gone? Oh, no, there we go, So, are we good? Yeah, we're good. So, Now, I want to steer this out of the shoals. There, I think I got it. $475 corn for whatever reason.
I'm like 2 hours into recording and we're at the beginning.
Over the past month, many of you noticed that I've been largely silent. For a community and team that I spoke with almost daily during development, I know that silence has been unusual and difficult. It was not because I had nothing to say, quite the contrary. From the moment this situation began to unfold, I made the decision that the place to defend my team, the company, and the community we built together would not be on Reddit threads. Gee, you think? YouTube videos or social media speculation. It would be in court, where the facts matter and where evidence would determine the outcome. Last month, I filed a lawsuit in federal courts, and then why are you on Reddit talking about this, you fucking idiot? Last month, I filed a lawsuit in federal court in San Diego on behalf of Intrepid student. Maybe he's not on Reddit, I don't know. This might have been sourced from somewhere else other than Reddit, but I mean, Reddit's where the world got exposed to it. On behalf of Intrepid Studios shareholders against Intrepid Board of Directors led by Chair Rob Dawson and their affiliated entry TFE Games Holdings LLC, I brought claims for breaches of fiduciary duty, violations of federal estate trade secret laws, and wrongfully efforts to receive seize company assets, including its valuable IP, through an unlawful and manufactured insider foreclosure. My lawsuit is a result of Rob Dawson and his agents trying to dismantle the company I founded and built alongside our community, repurpose Ashes of Creation as a vehicle for their own enrichment, and shift responsibility for Intrepid's collapse onto me through an orchestrated public campaign. For more than a decade, I poured all of my resources, including millions of dollars, my health, and my sole focus into creating Intrepid and Ashes of Creation. Despite this, I resigned from Intrepid on January 19, 2026 because I was unable to prevent the wrongful decisions of the board, especially their plans to summarily fire the employees without their legally entitled pay, leaving them and their families without benefits and health insurance with little to no notice. Now I've been fighting on behalf of our community and team to protect Ashes from those bad actors who gained control of the board, went rogue, and abandoned both the company's mission and their obligations in pursuit of...
Again, the last few videos
something
I've made about Ashes has been like a legal procedural breakdown of the lawsuits that are going on. I didn't want to make another one of those today because I know I'm going to have to make one tomorrow.
Yeah, and honestly, there might be one now because this is yesterday's video. So now we're gonna go open the link in the new video and see if he's got something new about this. No. So yeah, he might have a video tomorrow about this. Yeah.
Tomorrow is March 9th. And March 9th is when the Nevada...
Today is March 9th.
Nevada lawsuit is going to have the judge is going to hold a hearing, and we're going to find out whether things are going to be even more in conflict, or who's going to win the initial procedural battle, and whether or not Nevada are going to take a backseat. And if it does, that's like a huge victory, right? There's going to be a huge victory for somebody tomorrow, and one of these sides is going to be really upset. But this video is going to be more of my opinion instead of just objective breakdowns of like legal procedure. and what's going on in those lawsuits. This is going to be just my opinion about Stephen's, statement here, because if not, I don't know when I'm going to cover this. If I don't just do it now, when am I going to get around to doing it? And also Jason's lawsuit is here, which I've not covered. I'm going to go through like the notes that I've got on Jason's lawsuit and not go over the whole thing, mostly because a lot of the stuff that, well, pretty much everything that he alleges in there is already stuff he said publicly, and we've seen him say it publicly for weeks on live streams and videos. And also, for one other reason, one important thing to remember about all these lawsuits is that Jason's lawsuit is separate as a thing compared to the other two. The board versus Stephen and Stephen versus the board are directly in conflict because they're arguing over who owns the assets. So they can't both meaningfully progress, and that's why there's so much information about them so quickly, and why we'll get to see evidence and like who's winning in that, at least at this early stage, and who's coming out on top, because they're so in conflict, because one can't progress while the other one's being
I'm gonna
argued.
fix my mic.
Because
Sorry about
the argument
that.
is who
There we
owns
go.
the stuff. Jason's lawsuit, on the other hand, doesn't rely on who owns the stuff. It's just Jason saying I'm an investor, and Stephen and John misrepresented to me as an investor to get my money, and potentially committed fraud and misappropriation of funds and things like that. So his lawsuit just moves on regardless of what happens with the other two, which is why it's not like super important to cover quickly, because his thing is just going to be like, oh, in 6 months time the discovery will start, and then we'll start seeing evidence. But until then, it's just stuff he's already said in the public. But I will go over the allegations and what he's asking for, and the specific numbers and stuff, because I have some notes on my other monitor to do so. As for right now, the other lawsuits, there's a bunch of stuff going on. I'm not going to talk about this stuff today. It's like motion for dissolving the TRO that was just granted in California, and the reasons that they're going over. It's too much to do in a video that isn't scripted, because it's a fucking mess. Instead, I'm just going to go over Stephen's statement, because this isn't written in plain English, and it's the first time he's really spoken to the public about his side. Yeah, I guess we'll just talk about this, and then some speculation, I guess, about where all of this might go. That's just my opinion based on what I've researched and whatever else. So, Stephen's statement. I'm going to skip over certain parts of this because it's context we already understand. Stephen filed a lawsuit against the board, which is led by Chair Rob Dawson and TFE Games Holdings. He brought claims of breaches of fiduciary duty, violations of federal and state trade secret laws, and wrongful efforts to seize company assets, including its valuable IP, through an unlawful and manufactured insider foreclosure. Now, what is an insider foreclosure? Basically, it's where the people who own the company foreclose the assets of the company to another company that they own. Generally, courts look upon this very closely because it's, we've got a bunch of debt and we need to move our stuff. We're going to move it to this other company that we own and then continue operation. It looks weird. It potentially isn't unlawful, but obviously this is like a big element of like, this looks odd. And that's why a judge is going to immediately want to look at this without the additional context even of like, there was a bank, and did the bank get notified that you were doing this? And the bank is the secured creditor there, the top position of who would need to be paid back. So why did you not tell them you were doing this? Why did a junior creditor perform an insider foreclosure to move assets and not tell the bank that's owed, millions of dollars? So that's why this is like such a core factor, and why the judge in the California case is like, okay, this has serious legal merit because it looks, based on what's been said, to be a problem. Whether it is or not, we'll see. That's what they're arguing about. So he then goes on to say, my lawsuit is the result of Rob Dawson and his agents trying to dismantle the company I founded and built alongside our community, repurpose Ash's creation as a vehicle for their own enrichment, and shift responsibility for Intrepid's collapse onto me through an orchestrated public campaign. He's basically talking about, mostly about Jason here, probably, talking about him publicly. So this vehicle for their own enrichment, it's always funny to me when somebody argues like, oh yeah, these investors that know nothing about games, they're trying to make money from their investment into games. And it's like, yeah, of course they are. We know this to be true in every circumstance. Of course, investors want to make money, and they gain control of the company for this exact purpose. And regardless of whatever happens with this, you let them. Like, this is the thing, right? I want the truth to come out because I want to know exactly the right amount of blame to give everybody. I want all the truth, so I know, did you do X, Y, and Z, or did you just do X and a little bit of Y? You know, that's important to me. But make no mistake, everyone in the public is of the same opinion that this entire situation happened because Stephen lied to the public about ownership and who was funding the game. Because he said the whole time, it's me. I'm funding the game. It's all my money. I'd have to go back and look at the exact wording because maybe it's like a lie by omission or a technicality or whatever. But he's going to argue as a rich person who understands businesses and money. Well, allegedly a rich person. Of course, Jason's saying he doesn't have any money. We'll see in court what happens with that. But he's going to argue that, oh, all rich people use their money as like, oh, equity as collateral, and they use their assets and borrow money based on that, and that's what loans are and things like this. But the purpose of language is to convey one idea from my brain into yours. So when you say, oh, I'm not going to tell you any of this other context that you probably should understand, it's just my money, people aren't going to agree with you that, like, on a technicality you were being honest. They're going to say it's a lie by omission, or that they feel misled because you didn't give them all the information to make an informed decision, and you did so while taking people's money for something. So that's the issue. Regardless of what happens in court, that's something that isn't going to change because we have facts already of what was said, and now that there was people provably giving money all the way back in like 2017. Maybe you're correct on a technicality that you didn't lie. You just said something that didn't mean the same thing as what people were meant to understand. That's just where we're at with it, and that's where most people are going to fall on that spectrum of understanding. More than a decade, I poured all my resources, including millions of dollars, my health, and my sole focus into creating Ashes of Creation. So he's still saying he put millions of dollars in, which obviously is directly contradictory to what Jason's saying. Jason's saying he put no money in. And obviously this is going to be a point that when it comes up in terms of evidence, we'll see in black and white whether or not money left Stephen's account and went into the company and didn't come back out. And this is a point that we will get evidence of and we'll know. Despite this, I resigned from Intrepid on January 19th, because I was unable to prevent the wrongful decisions of the board, especially their plan to fire the employees without their legal entitled pay and leaving them and their families without benefits and health insurance with little to no notice. Which, of course, we did see happen. So, yeah, that happened. The board are not denying that this happened. So we can, like, marry both the stories here and give context, I guess. So he's saying resigned on January 19th for these reasons. The board, through Jason, are saying, which, by the way, Jason wasn't on the board. He's just somebody who, obviously, is good friends with Rob Dawson and is probably aligned with them behind the scenes. I think that's safe to assume. But they're saying the reason Stephen resigned is because they wouldn't give him equity in the new company, and the reason that these people got fired without all of this pay is that Stephen snaked them by going to the bank and telling them of the plan to foreclose, and then the bank basically went to Valve, I imagine, and said, you know, that's my money, and it got frozen, so therefore the money didn't come in to pay the employees. Yeah, that's I guess where the conflict is of what both sides are saying, but both sides agree that he did resign on January 19th. Yesterday, we had our first legal victory with the federal judge in San Diego, where Intrepid is based, issuing a temporary restraining order against Dawson and his associates, as the court wrote in this order. Defendants, and then names all the defendants along with agents, cannot access, use, sell, distribute, or cause anyone to access, use, sell, or distribute the trade secrets of Intrepid. Trade secrets, the game, basically the game files. I'll come back to that later because the judge's comments are very interesting, but let's start with how all this began. It's long, but it's important. You have the facts versus the lies and misinformation that have been spread about me and Intrepid. Always love when the facts and lies, the misinformation is being talked about. So, as alleged in the complaint, from 2024 onward, the board deliberately restricted the company's access to operating capital in order to purportedly justify a foreclosure. The foreclosure was designed to shut down Intrepid and transfer Ashes Creation to a new entity, TFE Games Holdings, affiliated with the board members. The board did this to enable Dawson and the other board members to control and sell the project for their own benefit, while cutting out Intrepid's long-term shareholders, lenders, employees, and community. The equity of the company, I think, is like... I think Rob Dawson's group owns like 84% or something, like 80-something% of Intrepid. I think Jason said he owned like 11 or something like that. So I don't know how this plays in, because I'd have to see specifically who else owns what. But obviously that applies to the shareholders. The lenders would be the bank and some other people that they've put money into the company, but they don't own equity, but they're owed money. They have debt, basically. The employees, we know they got fucked, and the community, yeah, it is what it is. The board also tried to divert revenues owed to Intrepid to the new entity while disregarding clear creditor rights. This is talking about the bank's money that was due in December of 2025. And that was going to be paid by the Valve money, right? That was going to be paid by Steam's millions of dollars that was incoming. I alerted the primary lender to this wrongful plan preventing bank fraud. So he told the bank, he's admitting to telling the bank, which is, of course, what the board was saying, that he went to the bank, and the board saying he did it to unlock equity in his house. He's saying he did it to prevent bank fraud. Let me be clear, I've received none of these revenues myself, despite lies stating otherwise. So that's, I guess, addressing the allegation of unlocking equity in his house. Obviously, we're going to see evidence of this. I'm not going to give an opinion on something I can't fucking physically know. The board was also behind the termination of all Intrepid employees without the protections they were owed, including pay and benefits. I strongly objected to and opposed these decisions, along with other senior leadership at the studio. So he's talking about when, right at the very end, when they were saying, we all know from what the employees said that the order had come through to fire like hundreds of employees from this studio, right? And it also said it was going to be without PTO and severance. So this is, I guess, demonstrably true. Right? I don't know about... Obviously, we've not seen strong objection and opposition in terms of like a document or anything to prove this. But we have seen from the employee side that they knew this was happening. Like, this was coming down from the board, who now controlled the company, that all these people were going to get fired and they weren't going to get what they were entitled to. That's what the employee's position has been. On January 19, 2026, I resigned from the board when it became clear that I could do nothing to prevent the board from its chosen course. I'm now fighting to protect Ashes Creation from a board that abandoned the company's mission and acted against the interests of its employees, investors, and community. Yesterday, a federal court in Southern District of California intervened and issued a TRO, blocking TFE and current board from accessing or interfering with the company's assets and critical services. The order preserves Intrepid's assets and prevents further disruption from the board. The court's intervention underscores the seriousness of the issues raised in the complaint and ensures that the company's assets cannot be further harmed, dismantled, or transferred, temporarily, for now. Judge Lopez wrote in the TRO, by showing that TFE acquired the trade secret materials through an unlawful artisan foreclosure, plaintiff has shown misappropriation through wrongful acquisition. The judge did say this. Now, one thing to understand, some people are saying the TRO means nothing, and it's not a big deal and it's always granted. That's not true. One of the factors that a judge has to examine when ordering a TRO is merits of the argument. So for it to have been granted, they have to think that the argument has strong legal merit. You don't just fucking get a TRO. People on the internet, on social media, want to discredit this case so badly because Stephen's a liar. Understandable, right? I agree with you. We're all in agreement there. But there's a difference between he lied about this stuff and his entire legal case is just bullshit. And this is one of those things that I guess people don't understand about the legal system. You can't just hire... He's hired a very reputable, high-powered law firm. Go look at these lawyers and look at their credentials and cases they've been involved in and where they've graduated and what they've done with their career. And you're going to tell me these lawyers have been hired and they're just to write down a bunch of lies that Stephen said. And then the judge is going to see these lies and be like, oh, that makes sense.
Wow. Look at... Look at how many sales I made yesterday. Tons of stuff. All those lesser magic wands sold for some reason. I'm back up to 8 gold, which is good. Maybe I put these bags in my bank? No.
Well met.
No. No.
Goodbye.
These bags go to the hunter, which is cool. I should buy a 3rd bag for the hunter and send 10 slots.
How may I aid you?
I need page 12. I'm going to look for it. No page 12. I guess I'll send Silk. Yeah. I have a world buff, or at least I did. I had a world buff, but it's gone. Or no, oh no, there it is. There it's 2 hours, right? Increases movement speed by 10%, all stats by 15% for 2 hours. So let's get the screen on the screen correctly. Graphics, default, apply, okay. Oops. I guess I'm hearthing, actually. Or, well, I guess I should mail off while I'm standing in a mailbox. Now, oops. I missed something.
And agree and issue a TRO. This is not reality. What happens to a lawyer if they just write down lies? And it's important to understand there is some wiggle room of like what you can write in a legal filing as a lawyer, but you can't write down stuff that you haven't got any evidence or reason to believe is true. And if you've done, you know, if you're a career professional with like really good credentials and stuff, why would you ruin all of that on this case? It doesn't make any sense. So the argument of like, oh, his legal filing is bullshit, it's not. These lawyers are not lying on his behalf. When a lawyer has seen like some evidence, they'll use terms like upon information and belief, which is basically like, oh, you know, I've seen something and I suspect if we see more, this thing might be provable. But a lot of his lawsuit, pretty much all of his lawsuit is written very factually, which if it turns out when evidence comes out that all of that was bullshit, all the lawyers that have been involved in this are going to get fucking referred to disciplinary at the bar, and nobody's doing that for like this random case. It just doesn't make sense. So when people say like, oh, the TRO's bullshit and I can't believe people are believing the lawsuit, or now believing the judge has seen things that, you know, they think make sense, what you've got to understand is this is potentially real, right? And the way it's written, and that the judge is now looking at it and agreeing initially, not making a judgment, but agreeing initially that it has serious merit, should dispel in a reasonable person's mind that this is just all bullshit and it's just lying Stephen lying again, but now doing it in a legal filing because he's trying to save his reputation. He might have an actual legitimate case. He could have lied about a bunch of shit to the public, but that is separate to whether or not he has a point in court against these other people. And let me be very clear, everybody involved in this is probably a villain at some level, right? Bear in mind, if you're treating this like sport and you're like, I'm on this side and I'm on this team, I'm on team Jacob, you're on team fucking whatever the vampire was called in Twilight, Edward, team Edward, team Jacob, we're treating it like that, right? Bear in mind that all the people on the board are all multi-level marketing people, and let me be
they're
very
all
clear,
thieves.
for the entire time
They're like
after
all
the
software
creation
developer
existed,
thieves.
I was making videos being like, I don't trust Stephen. Stephen was involved in multi-level marketing, and I think multi-level marketing is fucking awful, and the people involved in it are usually not very nice people. They're usually, I consider them to be like, a lot of the times MLM rides such a thin line between fucking a pyramid scheme and a multi-level marketing scheme that some of these people are involved in things that many of us consider to be shitty, shady practices, right?
You know, almost all my life I was a thief. From like the age of 7, I stole a book. You know, I've been a thief most of my life. I'm not where am I going? I'm going to Terran Mill? Yeah, I'm going to Terran Mill, yeah. And all my life I was a thief. Even when I was a child and I had money, I would still take things because I was just a thief. You know, I don't know what else to call it. I'm a thief. And definitely had some charges leveled against me and stuff around stealing. A lot of shoplifting charges and some other stuff. I don't steal anymore. It's been 6 years. Yeah, 6 years since I've stolen anything. 6 years now since I've stolen a single thing. And I'm starting to look down on thieves. And I feel this way because I used to be a thief and I'm not anymore. And honestly, it feels like I came by that judgment honestly after renouncing and not being a thief anymore. I have a very low view of thieves. On the corporate level anyways. I really don't care if somebody shoplifts because they're hungry or poor. But I don't like thievery on a corporate level to the point where I wish to almost go bust the people doing it like him.
Bear in mind,
I don't like thieves. And you know, it's weird when you're stealing because you have a drug addiction, or you're hungry, or you're poor, or you're struggling, or whatever it is, or maybe you're going through something. It doesn't matter. That I actually don't care. But when people like Stephen Sharif steal, people who already have money, who commit MLMs and stuff like this already, like just so they can have a life's career as a thief or whatever, I don't have a lot of respect for that. You know, I get the beggars and the thieves in the ghetto, and I don't mind that. I think it makes sense. Steven Sharif doesn't make fucking sense. That's a rich white person stealing money from kids.
The whole time Ashes was
Well,
ongoing.
he probably won't be rich much longer with all the terrible press around him. He's gonna have a terrible life now, I think. People aren't gonna let this go for like 10 years.
I didn't put in a...
I do have some sympathy for that. Although he is like he's like that guy on The Simpsons that was selling the monorail. And yeah, at the end he gets trapped in the town with the people who he sold the monorail to, which is the funny ending to all like stories involving thieves, pretty much. But like, but that's who he is. So like, am I mad that he's back in Ogdenville with the people who he sold the light rail to? No, I don't really think so. I don't actually have any sympathy for him over that. That's where he should be. Helcular's Revenge, which I don't even know. Oh, it's a starving mountain lion. I want to get some poison on. This game did not play like this when it first came out. We were like constrained to like 32 frames per second or whatever.
Penny, and I was constantly saying, yeah, I don't trust Steven because of his MLM past. And then for some reason now, all the people involved on the board level, Jason, Rob, all these people, the MLM people, career MLM people that have been involved in MLMs for decades, we're now all like, oh, these are the good people, these are the trustworthy people. Guys, nobody in this is trustworthy. That's why we need to wait for the evidence. Right? It's just crazy to me that we've gotten to the point where it's like, we distrust Steven so much, valid by the way, definitely distrust Steven, that we're then going to trust every word that comes out of the mouth of these other people. But we attacked YouTubers
thieves.
like Kira that were saying, yeah, don't trust Steven because of his MLM past, while we were putting money into Ashes. It's just a crazy juxtaposition. That being said, let's continue. Rant over. Unfortunately, the damage caused by the board's actions has already been severe. Yeah, the game's fucked.
Yeah, the game's fucked.
People have been asking, like, what is the likelihood that this game comes back into development and whatever later down the line? I guess we might as well speculate on that. We're only halfway through this, so get ready for a long one. There's two questions. One, what does a win look like here? And who gets control? How much debt are they saddled with? What can happen with a company that owes hundreds of millions of dollars at the end? And who is even going to own it at that point? That I don't know. There's
I can skin these.
There's a 0.1% reality that Steven wins his whole case, and the damages that he's awarded is like, you get the company back and these people aren't owed shit. That's like Steven's wet dream, most unlikely scenario on the planet, but it's technically possible, I believe, based on what I'm looking at. But every other possibility in the Doctor Strange, I've seen every future possible, is at the end of this, there's going to be a ton of debt. The company's probably going to go into some form of like fucking bankruptcy, and then everyone's going to have to try to work together to restructure the debt so that the company can operate or be sold. But if you're looking at it from like a player perspective of, at the end, would anyone play Ashes? I think they would. We might disagree on this one. People are going to be like, oh, Kira, that's cope. I never played the game. I don't give a fuck about the game. But realistically, if this takes 3 years and goes to trial, which like 5% of these cases actually make it to trial, they almost always fall apart or settle. But let's say this goes to trial and it takes 3 years and then it's decided people own it and they somehow get past the debt. and they get to the point where they can either sell it to a bigger company or they can start operating the game again and trying to like rebuild and continue development. Do we seriously think the MMO genre is going to have so many projects out by then that are playable and new and everyone's interested that nobody's going to care about the potential that Ashes of Creation becomes what it was going to be promised to be? I don't think that's the case. I think people would still give this a shot no matter who was involved. Do I think that would be a good idea? Probably not. You know, fool me once and all that. But realistically, I know since people are still putting money in Kickstarter MMOs, 100% if this game ever came back to the market, doesn't matter who was involved in it. Could be the board who was trying to fucking sell you all the microtransactions ever. Could be Steven who lied about the funding of the game initially. It doesn't matter who it is. There would be a sizable audience of people that would just be like, fuck it, it's been 3 years. It's been, you know, insert amount of time. It's totally possible that this thing makes a comeback. But that's assuming they can get over the, you know, $100+ million worth of debt and what the fuck that looks like and who owns it and who owns what percent of it and whatever happens with these lawsuits. There's just no way to tell. It's going to be such a mess for such a long time. So then it continues, a company that had spent more than a decade building the game, the community was abruptly shut down, employees were terminated without pay or benefits, and years of work was thrown into uncertainty. Yeah, it was fucking crazy, wasn't it? When I got told about this, by the way, I'd been told by one person, which I couldn't go live with the story, and I made a video 2 days before it happened, and I was like, something crazy is about to happen with Ashes, and everyone was like, you're a fucking liar, you don't know what you're talking about, why are you baiting people, blah blah blah. You know, if I'd have said this publicly and then it didn't happen, I'd have looked like the biggest fucking idiot in the world. But obviously I knew this was going to happen a couple of days beforehand, and I was just fishing to get like another employee to come forward so I could break the case immediately, because obviously nobody saw this coming. And if you say you did, you're lying. Like, nobody saw it's got to Steam, they're fucking taking in millions of dollars of revenue, there's tens of thousands of people online on the game every day concurrently, and it's dead 1 day later. Like, nobody saw that one come in. It was a crazy fucking message to receive. The impact on the people who dedicated their careers to this project and on the players who supported it cannot be overstated. The court further explained in its order, quote, the misappropriation has caused damage to Intrepid because it has been stripped of its primary assets that make up its main product. Yeah, it has. I'm now fully committed to holding the individuals responsible for this tragedy accountable and to preventing any further harm to the company or its assets, and to making the team and the players whole. I don't think this is ever going to happen, but we'll see, I guess. Of course, people's response to this has been, you need to also hold yourself accountable. Which, you know, if he's done more than just initially lie to the public, which I'm fairly sure isn't going to be punished in a court, it's going to be the lawsuits of him misappropriating funds and stuff. And if he's done that, he's going to be held accountable on Jason's lawsuit and on other lawsuits. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. It's impossible to tell. But the public are never going to be able to hold him accountable. Like, there's no lawsuit against him from the public. So, and considering how many of these like Kickstarter game situations I've covered, they never lose. They never lose if the public goes after them for like, oh, you said this and it wasn't 100% true. It just never works out that way. What was done to our community and to the team who poured their blood, sweat and tears into making Ashes was unconscionable. I recognise something else that has been difficult for many of us to watch over the past month. Ashes of Creation has always had skeptics and critics. That comes with attempting something ambitious in a space as challenging as MMO development. But the past several weeks have felt like a victory lap for many of those skeptics. People celebrating what they believe is the end of a project they doubted from the beginning. This is true. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with this. People have been doing this, and do you expect any differently? Of course not. It's a great I told you so moment. But obviously, like I said before, if you in your brain thought the game was going to get past all of the beginning of like the years of nothing really happening and it was going to get to this point and then collapse, that's where you kind of lose me. Because I was always like, oh, Ashes is you can go check the tape. I always said Ashes is probably never going to materialize in the way that they said it was going to. It was never going to be as much as they claimed it was going to be. Turns out that was correct, because it fucking closed down one day randomly. But I didn't think once it got to Steam it was just going to vanish one day. Like, they'd got over all the big hurdles already. They allegedly had hundreds of millions of dollars as an acquisition offer from a big company. It seems like this thing was legitimized before the end. And then, obviously, behind the scenes, just like the structure of who was involved and how they all were fucking with each other, seems to have been the big problem, which nobody could really foresee. If you were aware that there was like 7 multi-level marketing lifers involved in this whole thing, like battling for control, of course you'd have been like, yeah, no, it's not going to work, is it? But we didn't have access to that information, sadly. When Ashes launched early access in December 2025, the response from players dramatically exceeded expectations, generated nearly $9 million in gross sales, which reached roughly 300,000 monthly active players, had approximately 400,000 additional players on the wishlist, and millions of registered accounts. Yeah, the game was doing decent. Most importantly, the game achieved an approximately 76% peak concurrent user retention rate on day 30, a statistic that's extraordinarily rare in the MMO genre, particularly for early access. Both before and after the unnecessary and lawful shutdown, in furtherance of their plan to steal Ashes and discredit me, Dawson and related individuals began working to shift responsibility for these decisions onto me. The misinformation and false narratives being circulated by the board and proxies like Jason Karamanis must be answered with facts. I mean, there will be. Not in this post, because there are no facts here. There's no evidence. We don't have like a fucking smoking gun here. I categorically deny accusations suggesting that I mismanaged company funds. So this is the point that's really important. This is going to court. The evidence is going to come out. So to say this publicly is like, it's either some chess move that I'm not understanding. Maybe I can sit and think about it and come up with a reason. Or he believes this to be true. And he believes this is going to be proved in court that he didn't mismanage company funds. Because if it's true that Jason has seen factual evidence, this is the thing that confuses me, right? You're going to take this as some kind of bias, but just understand I'm looking at this as the lawsuits and what makes sense from the lawsuit angle. In TFE's lawsuit against Steven, part of their argument is we have some financial records. We have enough financial records to see money moving out of accounts to Steven and John and other people, but we don't have complete financial records. So then their lawyers say, upon information and belief, which again, remember what I said earlier, what that means, it's we've not seen exact evidence to prove that we know he stole this money or embezzled this money, whatever word we're going to use, or misappropriated this money. But we've seen the money moving, and we have incomplete records, so we think he did these
suspect.
things.
Yeah.
What confuses me is Jason is not a member of the board, which means he has less access to records and company stuff than the board does, which is TFE Games Holdings. So if their argument is we don't have complete access to all the records to make factual allegations with really firm wording, how would Jason have more records? It stands to reason that he probably has the same or similar or slightly less records than they do, but they're arguing they don't have all the records. So if they don't, he doesn't, which means that he's seeing the same money moving out of the accounts. But maybe he doesn't have the full records, and that's going to be where the proof of it wasn't embezzled or whatever. This is the thing, we don't know. Like, and that's like a slightly, it's not exactly contradictory between those two lawsuits, but obviously the side of the board which has more access to everything than Jason does, because, you know, they own more of the company, they were on the board and he wasn't, they're saying they don't have complete records to see the exact financial picture. So that's an element of doubt, right? That's what we can look at with this here. But obviously once this goes to court and all the records are put together and there's a financial audit by Forensic Accounting, then we'll see. It's so easy to prove this, right? Once you've got all the records, it's as simple as fucking putting them into, you know, Grok could look at this and tell you, you know, this is black and white, this is numbers, this is ones and zeros. You can prove this instantly once you have all the records together, which I don't think anybody does currently. But as soon as this goes to a court, they're going to know instantly whether or not there was millions of dollars stolen. Like within a couple of hours, an accountant's going to be able to put this together and see exactly what happened. So it seems odd if you know you stole money, it seems odd to say publicly, like absolutely categorically deny that this happened, when you know it's going to come out in court. Also denying that he caused company shutdown or engaged in any misconduct. These claims attempt to rewrite the events that actually occurred and divert attention away from the decision the board and its cronies made. The truth is that I refused to participate in actions I believe were unlawful and destructive to the company, its investors, its employees, and its future. Since the shutdown, I've been fighting as hard as I possibly can in court to show that the board's actions were wrongful and to fight for the rights and interests of the developers, shareholders, and player community. What's funny about this is that the player community don't want him to fight because they hate him. And from what I can tell, most of the developers hate him as well. And the majority of the shareholders are the ones that are suing him. So that's why that looks weird. But there are, of course, other people involved. There's also been significant speculation online about Ash's creation was financed. From the beginning, I said that I personally financed in the project and that statement is accurate. Okay. Much of the capital provided to the company came through lenders who extended financing based on my personal guarantees and the collateralization of my own assets and equity. The risk was mine personally. If the project failed, these obligations did not disappear. They were my responsibility. So exactly what I said at the beginning. This is the argument, right, that he's going to make of, oh, I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you the exact situation. That's the argument, right?
So I'm sorry, guys. I had to get up at fucking 8:15 in the morning today, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I'm a bit of a druggy, wastrel layabout, and I don't like waking up at 8:15 in the fucking morning. And I went to bed at, I don't know, 11 or 12 or something, and I got 8 hours of sleep, but I still don't feel good for some reason. I know why. I'm hungover and I don't feel good. And so I'm going to take a small nap. And I'm sorry, I don't usually do this. I usually do like 14-hour days every single day. But today it might be a little bit less, like an 11-hour day or something, because I believe I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to pause this video here. Hi, guys. I'm back. It's 4:46 p.m. Yeah, and I am going about the business. I am not streaming right now because I have to pause this video here in a few minutes to go up and help bring the groceries in from the car. So I have not gone live yet. I am just popping in, slowly waking up. I took a long nap. I took like a 3-hour nap.
Okay, what's up, friendos? Welcome back. We're going to play a little game today before we discuss the broader overview of today's topic, and that is, let's pretend we are Nintendo's lawyers, and we're going to pause the video at the exact moment that they file their lawsuit for patent infringement and potentially copyright infringement. So here we go. I don't think it'll take us all too long.
And lawsuit. Why is Pikachu's butthole on your shoulder? Why is Pikachu in this ripoff game? Come on, you don't think Nintendo might care? You're fucking stupid. You really don't think the guy who made Pikachu might be mad? I would not aggro the guy who made Pikachu. He's probably got $1 billion and sits around in a nice, like, I think I've seen him before. He's like this effeminate Japanese man who dresses in like sweaters and stuff. I've seen the guy who's made Pokemon before, and I swear to God, that guy's not going to like you. Whoever made the IP for fucking Pikachu or whatever, that guy's not gonna like you. He's not. How do you do this and not think that that guy's not gonna be furious? That guy has $1 billion. Not only does Nintendo have $1 billion, but the guy who came up with Pikachu probably has $1 billion. Why would you aggro all these billionaires who have angry, avaricious lawyers like this? What the fuck is wrong with you, piece of shit, cocksucker, brain dead developer? What the fuck's wrong with you? You don't think Nintendo? This is like taking a barbed taser and shoving it up Nintendo's ass and the guy who made Pikachu's ass. They're going to sue you. You're fucking stupid. If you're not Pokemon or Nintendo and you're doing this shit, you're going to get sued. The only reason you're doing this is because stupid ass Power World didn't lose their company. How long till one of these companies does lose their company? Not very long.
No, specifically not the glider. So here's it actually took 9 seconds before the lawsuit would be filed because
9 seconds.
Here you can see a player gliding on Pokemon. You know, Pokemon. What are these called? These are called Pikmons. Of
Oh
course, there's a
my
very clear
God!
distinction between a Pikmon and
You really think that because you removed or changed a couple of letters around, they're not going to sue you for $1 billion? You're so fucking stupid. You thought you were just going to slide under the wire, huh? No. Intellectual property theft doesn't care whether you're young, little, small, ignorant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care. It's just this giant litigious lawyer thing that just sues you if you rip somebody's off for their fucking IP. That's how the world works. It doesn't matter if you're nice or you make a good game like Power World. Power World was a freak story. There's no way Power World should have walked away. They did. They walked away because they were the first one. They were like the first one to do this. Nintendo did sue them, if you recall. And like, I don't know how they dodged that bullet. They changed the IP just enough is what they did. And that's what these people were trying to do too. They're trying to get up, make $1 billion like Power World or whatever. And then like retcon their crappy ripoff game just enough so it's not intellectually offensive to fucking to Nintendo. And I'm sorry, but that's not gonna work. I don't need a world full of stealing. You can just go fuck yourself and lose your company.
a Pokemon.
I'm sorry, I don't need a world full of corporate. I mean, if you're gonna steal from somebody, steal from a corporation.
But if you paid attention to the whole Power World situation when Nintendo went after...
Yeah, like this didn't go well. Remember, it probably cost them their entire profit just to pay for the lawyers to sue to keep the game going.
For them legally.
It probably did. It probably cost them most of their profit, if not all. Probably not all, because they kept going. But it's like, yeah, but probably 90% of their profit went to defending themselves against Nintendo. Why would you build yourself up like this, steal from some other nerd who spent all of their lives and all their time and all their shit building this or whatever? Why would you steal from somebody like that? You're a fucking software developer thief, you fucking piece of shit, cocksucker, brain dead developer. You are. Like, the person who made this game, you're a terrible thief. And it's like, sooner or later, the only reason Power World sold is because it was like the first time. It was the first time. But no, we're not going to descend into corporatocracy and theft every single time somebody wants to make an IP. It's just too easy to make a new one. It's way easier to make a new one than it is to steal like this. That's the other thing. It's because it's because social media rotted your brain to the point where you don't know how to make a good game. You can only rip off Pokemon, which wasn't a good game. I don't give a flying fuck what you think. Pokemon was not a good game. It's the most basic ass RPG in the fucking history. Sure, it's beloved. The television show was good. The movie was good. All the kids' content and all that stuff was good. But the game itself, Pokemon, sure, it was a good game in 1996. Leave it in 1996. We don't need it in 2026. And also, there was this weird psychotic shit that fucking Power World people did, where they're like, shoot Pokemon. Everybody's a Milsim person. Here, shoot Pokemon. I don't want to shoot Pokemon. That's some weird software developer fucking malfeasance you've got in your fucking crazy thievery corporation ass fucking software developer brain that I want to worship or shoot Pokemon. I don't like Pokemon.
As the lawsuit was
Fuck Pokemon. I don't want to shoot Pokemon. I don't want you to rip off Pokemon from Nintendo. I don't care about Pokemon and I don't need Pokemon in my life. I'm not somebody who was raised on a Game Boy until I was 11 years old, at which point I bought a Super Nintendo and I stopped playing games like Pokemon. Fuck Pokemon.
Patent infringement.
You want to rip somebody off? Rip off Final Fantasy VI. Don't rip off Pokemon. That game sucked. It was on the Game Boy and it was basic. Rip off Final Fantasy VI or something. You probably skate under the wire. But no, you like rip off Pikachu and then you wonder why they fucking sue you.
One of the changes that they had to make in May of 2025 was the gliding mechanic. The ability to...
Yeah, like they had to get rid of gliding because that's like a Nintendo thing now. It's so stupid. Hello? Okay, I'll be right there. All right, gotta pause it. Sorry, gotta go do the